meeting of the Ad hoc Policy Committee to order. First up is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The record show that Dr. Wisniewski is joining us by telephone. Joining us tonight are Mr. Melvin Campbell, Dr. Watts, and Mr. Strivinger. Wendy Cartledge is here, as is Superintendent Rodriguez, and of course Robert. Okay, approval of the agenda.
Move approval of the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion. Rachel?
Aye. In favor.
Okay, thank you. Passes unanimously. Do we have minutes?
Yes, you have
Okay.
first, you have
All right.
July 1st and July
Take a
8th.
moment to look at the minutes.
Move approval of July 1st.
Second.
minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Move approval of July 8th minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay. All right, before we get back to board superintendent relationships, if we look at the minutes from July 8th, there's two things worth talking about. First of all, in policy 3.8, conflicts of interest. Wendy,
I have a copy of the State Ethics Act for you all.
okay.
And section 8-13-755 addresses restrictions on.
Oh, for the cooling off period.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Rachel, I just emailed that one to you.
And,
Okay.
and
Okay.
Rachel, I can, if you'd like, I can just read it. It's very short.
I got it, I'm pulling it up. right
Okay.
now. Hang on 1 second. Okay, and this is in regard to which one?
3.8, conflicts of interest, specifically the cooling off period.
Under
Okay.
3.84C.
3.4.
3.84C.
Okay, I think it wasn't in there at all, so I think that would be an add. So we'd be adopting the language from section 1835, 755. We'd be adding that, and it would become paragraph F in 3.8 Roman numeral 4. Does that make sense? All it's doing is regurgitating the statute.
I thought it was in there already, or something similar, you just,
And it,
yeah.
well, that's about a construction is offered upon the current contracted service or vendor or a company, a bid offer. They're talking about construction thing for purpose of reporting immediately. So they're not talking about
Right,
You know,
that doesn't
accepting-
really reference this, okay?
accepting, it's similar, but,
Yes. yeah.
you know, going to a
Limited.
company. Yeah,
Yeah,
this
more
is
limited.
more specific to construction, yeah.
So move that the appropriate wording from 1835-755 be incorporated into 3.8, Roman numeral 4, noted as paragraph F, with the citation, excuse me, to the statute.
Okay, so you're adding statute 8-13-755
Right.
into our policy manual 3.4, which one?
3.8.
3.8 Roman numeral 4.
3.84,
3.8.
4F.
Got it, okay.
You know what, actually, I think it should, I'm not sure if it should go in number 4, because number 4 is employee conflicts of interest, and the language in the statute says former public official or member or employees. So it might need a section of its own. To be Roman numeral 5 rather than
Yeah.
F to Roman numeral 4. Is that okay with everybody without, we don't need a motion for that?
Well, it says, or, when they define it, it says a, or former public employee holding public office, membership, or employment, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know,
So that's a board member.
yeah, so I don't know if that necessarily would apply to a traditional employee, which is, I think, what 3.8 is just.
No, actually, employee conflict of interest, that provision would apply to anybody here working at the school district, because we're considered public employees.
Yes, holding public office or membership or employment on or after January 1st, 1992. So that's pretty well covered.
Okay.
Okay? All right, now, back to our favorite 4.1, public comment. Public comment section, Wendy was gonna check out, there was considerable discussion about the word defame.
So, we talked last week about the right of free speech and what it says in the law, and just so you'll know, I checked with the National School Board Association too, to make sure that I knew about a national, wide, what the law was, but the First Amendment, does not allow a government official to retaliate against individuals for speaking out. And the give and take of the political process is what was mentioned in this case, and went to the United States Supreme Court. The give and take of political process does not constitute retaliation for exercising free speech. So we can have disagreements and different positions, but we have to be really careful that when we speak, that we say things that are in fact true, because if we make a statement with malice that is false, then that is a situation where a false statement made with malice and reckless disregard for the truth, then a board member could be in a situation where they could have liability for making a statement that was false, because that could, if you accuse, say you accuse somebody of stealing or something, and they didn't, and that was not a true statement, that's a different situation, but you are allowed to express your, I want to read this to you because I thought it says, public officials have to have a thicker skin than the ordinary citizen when it comes to attacks on the views. Its speech itself is protected under the First Amendment. We can have differences of opinion, but we have to be careful that we don't threaten somebody to cause them harm or make obscene gestures at people. We can express our opinions in a respectful way, but we can't attack somebody, we can't, yeah.
So is malice one of the key words here?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
has to be malice?
I think it's malice
It
and
has to be false?
malice and reckless disregard of the truth or something like that.
Reckless
Yeah.
regard of the truth, okay.
But I think, our concern is not what the board says,
Board members.
more so than censoring what others said during a board meeting. I think that was the discussion. And you didn't address that there, you addressing what
Yeah.
board members could say. And when our concern was when can the chair shut off
Oh,
another
no.
person from making what would be
And there's
defamatory
something else
remarks.
too. And, well, also that would staying within your rules and procedures.
Right.
That you wanna make sure that everybody's treated equally and
Yes.
that everybody has the same amount of time.
Yes, that's
to address-
right.
They have the right to address their opinion,
That's why
but
the
it cannot
definition
be,
defamatory
yeah, be
was,
going on and on.
was important.
Okay, so going to section I here, okay, of 4.1. Speakers may reference the name of specific board members, okay, but such communication will not include gossip, defamatory words, or abusive and vulgar language. Now, zeroing in on defamatory, should we include a definition of what defamatory is, based on what Wendy has just said, that it's,
You know, in this case, demeaning, insulting, abusive, veiled threats, discriminatory.
Again,
in other words, I think what I'm hearing is that the description of defamatory is a little narrower than most people would assume. You know, a lot of people would assume that defamatory means anything negative, right? And what Wendy has spoken to us is far from just a definition of negative. It has to be with malice and it has to be false. So,
read it again, and then.
Oh, there's a couple
what John
different,
said,
yeah, there's a.
folks.
I'm reading it from another one now about insulting, threatening, directing obscene gestures. The other one.
how about if we had something like this? But such communications will not include gossip, abusive and vulgar language, or,
Threatening,
hmm,
threatening.
some people confuse threatening with the speaker's style. As soon as somebody gets forceful in there,
Here.
they feel threatened by it.
Here it
That's
is.
why we have a cop at our
Where
meetings.
are you cutting the line, John?
Here's a language that I just came up, demeaning, insulting, abusive, veiled threats, discriminatory.
Veiled threats, discriminatory.
Demeaning,
Demeaning.
insulting, abusive, I mean, being,
I
I guess you
mean,
would say
That's
disrespectful.
as broad, I mean.
That's what the
Broad
quote
as
said.
it gets. So how would you narrow that down?
I guess.
Was that your hand up, or were you?
There's one
Well, you-
with a
you-
gesture, but
no,
also, I
yeah.
know, we're not court, so we're not gonna be able to decide a lot of stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
And I
You know, you
think.
can put words out there, and if people disagree, then they take it to court. And then
I
you get a
think-
definition.
Yeah, I think it's too, we can, you as board members, you can disagree on a subject matter, you can disagree on a position, you can have different points of view.
Right.
But you can express your opinion in a respectful manner toward each other without being demeaning. I mean, you don't attack the person, it's an issue you're talking about, and you don't, and you're not demeaning, you're not vulgar, you're not abusive or making a threat.
Because we
This
have
is
your
about
breaches
person-
of respect.
This
Yeah.
is about person
You read the
hearing
sentence in front of
in
them.
front of the
Breaches
board.
of
But as well as board members, there's
That's
someone
Well,
here.
right,
Yeah,
with the board
yeah.
members now,
Pretty
that's,
heavy.
the question is,
Yeah.
when do we
Yeah.
This is
All
like
find
the
it
school
to
board,
the
South
other
Carolina
people.
School Board Association.
indirectly?
Yeah.
Well, the problem is, you know, when do I say, hey, you've gone too far? That's what our resolution is gonna be. Yeah.
All I'm asking is, with the ambiguity, despite what Wendy read, of people's definition of defamatory, are we clouding the issue actually by having that word in there? That's all. If we can take that out, I see nothing, no issue about the sentence at all, because breaches of respect covers it. So why put something in there that is open to interpretation, such as the word defamatory?
I would think breaches of
So
respect
That's
is
what I'm
pretty,
gonna say too.
it's pretty broad too.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
yeah, that's just what I was gonna say. I mean, I think it should stay there personally. And this is what the South Carolina School Board Association added, you know, they thought that it was important. But, you know, if you don't say it's defamatory and I say it is, well, let's go to court, you know?
I mean, are we clear? I'm not sensing that we're clear on why we would do it this way. I think John's thinking that, you know, we're infringing, but we're saying, let's put the ball in their court. Let us just stay with our policy,
Okay.
Tina.
Let's,
Yeah,
let's take all the individuals out of it for a second.
yeah, I'm just saying the dog.
Just picture a chair
Okay, get you.
who wants to use that word, and it has nothing to do with anybody that we know,
Okay.
but wants to use that word to curtail well-managed debate. Because it's so subjective, I mean, everything's subjective to a degree, but because this is so subjective, that you could possibly have a chair who could take that to advantage, not that you would or not, but I think we've both seen some chairs that would use that as an argument.
And I'm saying yes, and I'm saying yes, that could happen. And I'd say it'd be the responsibility of that person who was curtailed from continuing to take the board to its task in court.
What about a board member?
This is addressing speakers to the board, you know, not board members. This is addressing public comment.
Okay. All right. Move that it stays. Rachel, you okay with that?
Rachel? Oh, sleep.
We may have put her to sleep.
Sorry, I had it on mute. And I didn't realize that, I was like, yeah. I'll take it off you.
All right. Moving, but I'm glad that you dug up that part about the give and take of political discourse, okay? It can't be Mr. Rogers all the time.
And you have to have a thick skin.
Okay, 5.1.
Okay.
Now, I think we stopped at Roman numeral 4.
Actually,
We got through.
you
part of
got
that.
through all of that.
Huh?
You got through all of that.
Oh, we did,
We
okay.
got all the way to the end, and
So we had
that was it.
5.
You kind of stopped at, 6 or 7, but
Okay, let's start with 5. Is that a logical place? I like 5. I think Dr. Rodriguez will like 5.
Started it already.
Yeah, you do.
I don't think find that, we hide this stuff, we make it as confusing. as we
All right,
can.
number 5.
Hey, Mr. Campbell,
Hi.
welcome.
That's okay.
You got one, okay.
All right.
Got one,
Okay, so no, anybody have a problem with 5? 6,
This was one.
the board will provide direction of the superintendent through actions, direction, decisions, or guidance from the majority of the board. The superintendent is not expected to follow the directions of individual board members, officers, or committees unless the board has specifically delegated such exercise of authority. Could we
Where
include?
are we?
Huh?
They're in
Where are we?
6, Roman numeral 6 of
5.1.
5.1.
Last page.
I'm looking at the red line one, sorry.
That's the one you're looking at.
And you're reading 6?
5.1, Roman numeral 6.
Okay.
Okay, I would like to make a suggestion around the first sentence. The board will provide direction to the superintendent through board action. Because guidance is too iffy. We create board action when we take a vote.
But sometimes, don't you talk with the superintendent without board, I mean, you're not in a board meeting, or you all meet, or,
No, good example.
But the board cannot provide direction unless it's in a meeting, because the board can't be in a room without it being a meeting.
Yeah, but what about, a good example would be when we tell them to go investigate further about property for sale. You're not gonna come out there and vote to continued action on this property for sale. We might tell the superintendent, direct him to go get an appraisal, or his staff to go get an appraisal. And you don't want it in the public because it could potentially hurt your bargaining power. So I don't think we always vote to give him direction.
I do, and here's why. You can say these things in public without giving away the store. You can say, move that the board direct the superintendent to take action as discussed in executive session. We've done that on numerous occasions. This stuff about going around the table to assess the will of the board is nothing but a thinly disguised end run around the Freedom of Information Act, because it is taking a straw poll any way you slice it, because what the person's looking for, they say, anybody object to this? You're asking people to say yes by their silence or no by their disagreement, and that's taking a vote, I think. Yes,
So when you take a vote to do what was decided on in the room,
You don't know what it is.
you don't know what was decided in the room, because as you said, you go around, does anybody object?
I didn't say decide, did I?
What did you say?
I said, move that we authorize the superintendent to take action on topic discussed in executive
So
session.
what was the action discussed? Because the only way you discuss it is you go around and say, is there any objection? You know, I don't know how you can take a vote on something that you didn't vote on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the conflict is that the law says you cannot take a vote in executive session.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Now, it defines vote very, very loosely. It defines it as a vote, or a poll, or a straw poll. So anything, I think anything that leads to the board declaring a consensus in executive session amounts to a vote.
I understand all, I got all that.
You got that.
But when you go out in public,
You know,
you vote on something that you didn't have a consensus on. So
Right.
what are you voting on?
You're voting on to find out what the consensus is.
But you haven't
But
defined
you
it.
haven't defined it.
You haven't
Yeah.
defined it.
Because you gotta be vague because you can't discuss that topic in
Mhm.
public.
Exactly.
So,
But that's life. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, it is a
I mean, I think
conundrum.
it's a charade. You're doing the charade that you're
Yes.
taking a vote, but
But, okay, but your
Nobody knows
problem
what
is
you're
with the
voting on.
legislators who passed the law, because we've got to follow it. So if it's a stupid law, it's the law until somebody changes it.
I don't think the law is stupid. I think what we're talking about here is stupid.
Well,
I understand, it's the dilemma. You go out and you say, you know, we're taking a vote on something we can't discuss, that we didn't really decide on.
Exactly, that's
And
exactly.
so what is it we're voting on?
because we're not
You
voting.
know, because people can't object
Yeah.
necessarily, because they're not sure what they're voting on.
I'm clear on that.
Well, let's run through a scenario, okay? A contract with X, Y, Z. Okay? Go through the contract and we pile out of executive session. Somebody makes a motion, moves that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to enter into a contract with him. All right, now you can discuss it, but you can discuss it in such a way that you don't reveal the particulars. You can say, I think the terms of the contract are too loose, okay? That lets the public know that at least a contract's being discussed, that somebody has an opinion about the contract that's gonna influence their vote. But you're not saying who it's with, you're not saying what terms you think are too loose, okay? So if that's a charade, so be it, but I think that's what's required. And this whole conversation is just from the fact of, from that phrase, guidance from a majority of the board. And what constitutes guidance? I think the safest thing to do is to describe it as a vote. If we can't talk about things in public in the proper language, I don't know why we've got the position we do.
But if we're talking, like, in this 30-4-70, about meetings which may be closed, a public body may hold a meeting closed to the public for one word of following: discussion of employment, appointment, compensation, promotion, demotion, discipline, or release of an employee, student, or person that's, you know, part of the district here. If an adversarial hearing, the employee can ask to have it be open, but it's, you can't, like, for example, Robin, can we talk about John Alden Bauer, that case that I had when I was at the Department of Education? Can you tell the board about that case and about how remember how there was information posted about him being terminated before the board voted on it, and then I don't know if he filed a lawsuit, but it went on and on, it went up to the Board of Appeals, it was like a monster.
I forget his
It
name.
was information that was put in the personnel ratification report. So I used to publish that before the John Bauer case, and in it, you will see it has the termination, hired, blah, 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 blah. Well, that was being published, but because of that case, it said I should not have been putting it on our website, because I should not have put person's contract level on the website. The fact that he was terminated, that became public information, and I should not have done that. So that is why we do not put the employment ratification report, make it public, because it said that information in there is not public information.
Well, it was a recommendation for termination by the superintendent, but the board had not voted on it.
But the board had voted on it, but it had not
Had
gone
gone to
through
the-
all of the different appeals and.
Where he was appealing that he was
On and
wrongfully
on and on
terminated,
and
it was
on and-
constructive, he was discharged, and he was.
But during that, they were saying because of the information, including contract levels, people's contract levels is not public information either, whether you're induction, whatever. So that's why it's not put, attached to minutes. It's
But I'm
not-
thinking about, we have a personnel.
I've got my thoughts on the ratification report, but that's not
No.
what we're dealing with.
But if we're dealing with somebody where we have a potential employee discipline matter, or a matter, we can't vote on that in public when it's a pending matter. and the
Sure,
board hasn't-
employee A,
But you haven't heard it yet, I mean, it's, so.
call it employee A.
So what would you suggest then, Mr. Dowling, with
Move
respect
that
to?
we ratify the superintendent's recommendation on employee A. Because until we take that vote, it's subject to interpretation, is what we're collectively wanting to do. If I were the superintendent, I would want board votes on everything. So that 18 months later, when people are come and gone, and there's no record of executive session, that the superintendent knows what the board at that time wanted, and the current board knows what they need to do to fix it if they're of a different opinion.
Right
But
now,
I don't know that we can function with a vote on everything. I mean, if we have to wait for a vote on everything, this place is gonna come to a grinding halt. And
Well, what do you mean by everything? We're talking about
you said
stuff that
everything, not me.
typically comes to
You said-
executive session.
You said that if you were the superintendent, you would wanna vote on everything.
I'm sorry, let me amend that. Everything that's discussed in executive session, if I were superintendent, I'd want a vote coming out of executive session on, because that's the only way to prove later on what was the will of the board. Well,
But this doesn't just address that, does it?
hmm?
And this is addressing overall functioning and relationship with what he can accept as responsibility from the board. Not necessarily out of executive session, but any other thing.
Like his date, an administration of his duties.
Like, just like someone individually addressing him about getting some information even. You know, I need some information on the academics of Whale Grant Middle School. You know, the board shouldn't have to vote for that to be a process. That's what it said.
That's overcomplicated, yes.
Here, let
Rachel.
go.
So the version that I'm looking at, Roman numeral 8, says the board will make decisions by formal recorded vote in order to avoid any confusion about whether direction has been given or not. Does that not address this entire conversation?
Roman numeral 8?
7.
Seven?
Seven on
Oh,
ours.
see, the version I have.
Well, I guess it does.
Decision.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. It says it much more succinctly than I did.
Thanks for reading ahead, Mitchell.
Thank you.
I'm just, just here to help.
So why don't we,
So then-
back to 6, why don't we change the first sentence to the board will provide direction of the superintendent through board actions?
After this.
Yes,
Let's say decisions,
Okay,
because that's
yeah,
what it
I
says.
think you have to leave it the way it is. 'Cause a good example from our last meeting was, the motion failed that the board would be approving any outside legal counsel, that the superintendent could not approve outside legal counsel, that failed. Okay, so that means the superintendent, the way our procurement code is, page 17, it's either the board or the superintendent who can approve outside legal counsel. So he has that capability. So we've given him that vote failed. So we're not gonna come back and say, okay, now we're gonna have a vote which firm you can hire. I mean, if you do it by vote only, you're, like, I believe as Dr. Rodriguez is saying, you're tying his hands. He has to have an ability to function as the CEO. That is what we hired him as, the CEO. We are not there, we are there to guide him, direct him, and for example, he can go hire outside legal counsel. So if you just say that you're gonna take out actions, direction, it has to be board vote, you would be meeting daily to make votes.
I'm only referring in number 7, I'll just quote number 7. Make decisions by formal recorded vote. I'm only talking about matters discussed in executive session.
Well, this is
Now-
nothing
Then
about
that should have,
executive
then
session.
that should have a completely different line, because the way it's written right now, I believe it's 6 on y'all's version. That one, I take and interpret as just regular board action, that's from a regular meeting or something like that. I don't take it, I think if it's something that, if you're trying to focus in on executive session matters, it should be its own.
Number 1, that motion had nothing to do with the superintendent's ability to pick a lawyer. It was that the board would have to see the contract that he signed. That's two
Disagree with you.
mutually exclusive things. Fine, you can
Respectfully
disagree.
Respectfully disagree.
That's,
Okay,
I mean,
Mary.
that's, 7, you know, with all due respect, is still about if there is any confusion, and a superintendent says, oh, I'm not sure I have the directive for that, then that comes to the board, and we say, we give you direction for that. But that's not for any thing at all, that's for a bit where you might say, we didn't authorize him to close that school. Come to the board to get authorization.
Yeah, I'd say-
He's got that authority. That's what 7, but 6 is not exactly that, in that vein. I think 6 is about direction, any direction, all the directions.
And there's no executive session listed there.
No,
Why does there have to be an executive session listed there?
Because that's what you were talking
Well, I
about.
thought that's what the issue was.
Yeah.
no.
It is, but why does that, you just said, why does it have to? You just said it's not listed there. Why does it have to be listed there? Whether the superintendent's getting direction from public session or private section, or result of private session, it should be through board action, and isn't.
Well, John, I think it's about our relationship in terms of operation. That's the way I'm reading that. Our relationship in terms of operation. And how fine is it gonna be? How open is it gonna be? And if there is discretion, then it's settled.
I'm not suggesting that we inject ourselves into every decision process. What I'm suggesting is that if you come to us and say, what do you want me to do? We
That's
tell
seven.
you via a vote.
Yes, that's 7.
That's all I'm suggesting.
Okay, that's 7.
I think that's,
Yeah. It doesn't mean we inject ourselves into a micromanagement cycle. Okay, it's when you ask us what to do,
right.
we tell you via a vote, whether it's in public or private. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's,
Okay.
what
Okay.
that covers it.
Yeah.
So, therefore, I think that providing direction through guidance from a majority of the board is superfluous, because guidance from a majority of the board is saying something different than Article 7. We don't give you guidance, we give you decisions, right?
Well, that's what I'm thinking is different. I think we can give guidance,
I think that's a
like here.
different topic, I think that says, on number 6, Rachel, I think yours is a different number, I'm not, but on our
Yeah,
number 6
it's
here,
fine.
it says, the board will provide direction to the superintendent through action. Okay. Now, it also says, through action, direction, decisions, right? It says, or guidance.
Let me give you an example. Right.
Yep.
All right, we sat in, I think it was a work session, we sat in some meeting, and for 2 hours, we all gave our opinions about certain line items in the budget. So I asked the CFO, I said, what guarantee is there that our suggestions are gonna make it into the budget? And she said, no guarantee at all, because it was suggestions, guidance, okay? It's when we took a motion that it became effective, all right? So you could come to us and say, what do you want me to do? And we could all talk about it, and you could form an opinion of what you think we want you to do, okay? And since we're all fallible, that opinion could be wrong. But when there's a vote, it's pretty clear. Okay, that's how I believe that a parliamentary legislative body works. And it has nothing to do with culture or relationship, it's a process.
Now,
Yes, Robin?
when the superintendent brings the administrative rules, they ask the board for guidance, but the board can't vote on the administrative rules. But they do ask the board for your guidance and your opinion of how you think. Most of the time, I have not known of a time they have not incorporated your opinion or your guidance, but that is an example of where you all are asked for guidance, but you don't have to incorporate
But the board does have an option, if it really doesn't like an AR, to vote that it not be implemented, if it does not tie to a board policy.
Can I make a comment?
I'm sorry?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, sure.
So your point, John, is very well taken, but I kind of, in thinking on it, because I understand exactly the situation that you're mentioning, where, basically everything we were giving was guidance, and until we did take action, that's when it became something solid. However, I think if we remove the guidance portion of it, we then are deteriorating the relationship that's there with the superintendent, the senior staff, and things like that. If they don't take our guidance and we have a major qualm with it and something is done that we severely disagree with, then we certainly still have the authority to take action at a later date, and which is what we've tried to do working through these things. But as a governing body and working with the CEO and the senior staff, I think it's important that we have these guidance aspects in there so that we are having a functioning, cohesive, and back and forth type of a relationship, and not just a, this is it, this is how it's gotta be done type of relationship, because I certainly don't think that that fosters any type of positivity. But your point is well taken with that scenario and that example. I just think that we as a governing body need to make sure that if the guidance is directly being, omitted, then we do take appropriate action. But I certainly don't think that in policy it belongs to be so authoritative.
The only problem with the taking a wait-and-see attitude around giving guidance, and if the guidance isn't taken and corrective action later, is that there can you can have some whopping mistakes made in that interval between giving the guidance and finally deciding that it hadn't been taken advantage of. But anyway, David.
No, I agree.
I want to
No,
go.
so go ahead, Rachel, finish.
No, I was just saying, no, I agree with you that, that's the nature of the beast, though, I think. And it is unfortunate that there might have to be corrective action, but that's also why everybody is accountable as the CEO of the district, is he's accountable to us. We are accountable to our constituents. Everybody has accountability here. So I understand and I take your point to heart. It's just, I don't want to deteriorate the relationship to where it's not operable.
Okay, David?
I was on the policy committee when this was inserted in, and the payoff was the second sentence, not the first sentence. That's why that was put in there. That directions would not come from individual board members. That was the payoff on this one.
Okay, so
So-
how about if we have 6, just be that sentence, and then 7 defines how the board makes decisions. So 6 would read, the superintendent is not expected to follow the directions of individual board members, officers, or committees unless the board has specifically delegated such exercise of authority, which, by the way, is redundant to 2.2, but nonetheless. And then 7 would be, the board will make decisions by formal recorded vote. Does that solve the?
Specifically
All right,
delegated.
well, I move that we,
John, I will discuss, please. What does that mean? As specifically delegated such exercise of authority. Now that gives the superintendent the authority or the individual board members.
what does it mean?
Yeah, what does it mean? Superintendent
means
is not
that he's
expected
not
to follow
supposed to
directions of
Take
individual board members.
individual direction from us, direction from us as individuals.
Unless the board has specifically delegated such exercise of authority.
That refers to committees.
Right, and it does that
It's
via
supposed to be
the
Refers to
6%.
committees or
Right.
fact,
That's what it was.
fact getting.
It was meant to refer to committees, so that a committee could, if the
Yeah,
board has
could
given the
exercise.
committee the
Like,
authority,
that's what I wanna know, yeah. Like,
that's what that was supposed to mean.
okay, so
Enforcement.
now, we have to look back at the committee information to determine whether let's say, our committee, John wants some information from the superintendent. Does he have to go to the board, vote on that?
Well, that's number 8.
That's my
That
point.
we'll deal with that.
That's number 8.
That's number 8. Okay, I think what we're trying to zero in on now is how the superintendent receives direction from the board. Is it through a multiple set of actions or directions, decisions, or guidance, or is it the direct result of number 7, which is the board will make decisions by formal recorded vote? Remembering that the trigger for that is when the superintendent says, what do you want me to do? We don't inject ourselves into the decision process unless the request for direction is made by the superintendent.
For
Does that
which,
make
for
sense?
which one? For number 6?
Huh?
On number 6?
Right. 6 and 7.
I don't see how it doesn't relate to 8. You saying it doesn't relate to 8. I don't see how none of that, I don't see how all 3 of those don't relate. I mean, if we have to vote for him to act, then we have to vote in number 8 too. Although, because that's the big part of the stuff, request from the board for substantive information should be made to the superintendent and not the individual members of the staff. Well, if that's the agreement, then who makes it?
Well, that's already, I was actually gonna move to strike that because we already covered that previously.
Okay, so that's right.
I made the, regarding the request, I believe I suggested that at the July 1st meeting.
If we strike
Yep.
that and allow people or don't allow them to request.
No, we changed it, let me pull, it's on the July 1st minutes.
What number?
Let's see. I'll pull it up here, sorry, I'm on my
Yeah,
phone.
yeah, I remember the
Hard copy
discussion.
there.
Yep.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
2.0.
recall where it was. Yeah,
It's-
policy, what was it, 3.4, or 2.4, something.
3.4, section 11.
3.4 section, Roman numeral 13.
Yes.
Yeah,
Or
we
it
changed
is-
the language and it's about information requests.
Right, and then.
What,
So that's the directive for it,
Just
and
to-
it really being underneath here isn't necessary.
Right, so I think that number 8 can go, because we've already voted on your suggestion that's in the minutes from 1 July.
is that what we have written down?
Yes,
Just to refresh everybody's memory,
And
this is
the-
the suggestion that we voted on in
it's under
that.
policy 3.4, number 13.
Yeah, I know, but I mean,
In
the
the,
conclusion is written down, what we agreed on.
Yeah, it's in the minutes.
Yeah,
It's in the
hold
minutes.
on to your question.
Yeah, that says actually the opposite of what this is.
This request should be made via email. That's the new,
We were trying to mirror it off of 2.4, which was, agenda request.
I'm looking at it now, I mean, I'm just saying. It's in blue now,
correct,
Right.
that's correct. It's
Correct.
blue now is what your
Right.
recommended
isn't it?
changes were.
This request should be
Yeah.
made via email to the superintendent when possible. Purpose of, for the request would be given. And I'm saying, okay, if that's the case, then how can this number 7 and what we're discussing now, does that overrule that?
Well, I was gonna make a motion to remove that from this.
We're gonna
section.
remove,
Sorry,
yeah,
this
that's
already
8,
covers
that's
elsewhere.
8 ratio for us.
Okay,
Yeah, so we're gonna remove 8,
I think if we remove 8 and leave the change to 3.4, section 13, that is
Okay.
much more succinct.
okay, I'm looking at, I've got the version that you guys have, that the policy changes, but it's 8, yeah, so it is, I was going to remove Roman numeral 8 from policy 5.1 because it's already covered in policy 3.4, Roman numeral 13, I believe.
Okay, I'll second that.
Discussion. So one thing that's not included, Rachel, in the 3.413 is the specific statement that the request for board for information shall be made to the superintendent and not to individual members of the BCSD staff. Because if you look at 3.413, board members may request information from the superintendent. It doesn't, there's nothing about the staff there, that you
Next
can't go
sentence,
directly
though,
to
the
staff.
next sentence says this request should be made via email to the superintendent.
But this says that you can request information from the superintendent, doesn't say don't request it from the staff member.
Right, I think that was because we were leaving it to the discretion of, based on the conversation I recall, we were leaving it to the discretion of the superintendent if he wanted to delegate it and say, okay, send this to Tanya or send this to Robert or whatever, if it needed to go to a senior staff member. Because I know that it was kind of an unspoken thing with Dr. Berg that we were allowed to make those requests directly. That's kind of what he wanted, so.
Yes, Rachel, that was exactly the
It's
conversation. Leave it to the discretion of the superintendent. I remember that.
But this doesn't say, but you could still, it doesn't address here, you still as a board member could go ask senior staff for information, it doesn't.
No,
Yeah,
this
it does.
request should be made via email to the superintendent.
If you're requesting information from the superintendent via email, it says nothing about requesting information to a staff member.
Then stop that from happening.
Okay, my interpretation of that would be that all information requests are covered by that. If you're suggesting that we say, board members must send all requests for information to the superintendent, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that would fix it. That would fix it, because then he delegates to, it goes to Tanya, or it
Right.
goes here, or wherever.
I got no problem with
Wait, I'm sorry, I'm not following.
that. Okay, now, Rachel, in 3.4, section 13,
Mm-hmm.
the first sentence, board members may request information from the superintendent. It's suggested that it be changed to board members will make all requests for information to the superintendent.
So will instead of may?
I think it's
Sure.
the next sentence is the one, is the key sentence. The request should be made via email to the superintendent. So you want it to be stronger than should.
No, I just wanna clarify, what about, so, to eliminate board members going to
So-
Tanya directly,
So,
or
Well,
to,
I'm with you on that.
yeah.
so
It
I
has
would,
to go through you.
if
Okay, so you
possible,
want it explicitly stated that they're not to contact senior staff.
Right.
Right, that's exactly, and then,
Right.
but Dr. Rodriguez certainly can, delegate the request to his staff as appropriate.
Okay, then. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly fine. I think, we should probably add in parentheses, unless superintendent directs otherwise or something, give him that discretion, because if we just say not, that our policy is that all requests go to him and they are not to go to senior staff, then are we not binding hands then?
You could just say, board members request information, through the superintendent rather than senior staff, or something like that.
How
That's
about
another way to say it.
directly? Board members will ask for information directly to from the superintendent. And then it's implied that the superintendent can delegate, say, go see Tanya or something.
But that's why,
Words to that effect.
that's why the discussion, I think, and that's why I'm looking at all of it in terms of complexity, because if you're saying that we have to vote on all of these things, then a lot of these little things, we'll still have to go through him. And he may very well prefer that we go directly like
That's his discretion.
we have been doing.
That's his choice.
No, I mean, many times we go directly without him having the fingers to point. Because I mean, consider 100 requests a week, and he's got to just divvy it up, as opposed to, yes, we're going directly to, I mean, if that's what he wants.
I think the board honestly, the average is probably 3 or 4 requests at the most per week.
Okay.
And I think it's just, if I were superintendent, I would evaluate coming through me just to see what people are thinking about and asking about. Even if I was gonna almost automatically refer it off to a staff member, at least I've found out what the question is, what the area of potential problem is. Because the staff member may not tell me that anything is going on about it. Yes, David?
And more importantly than that, you're responsible if you're the superintendent.
Huh?
You're responsible if you're the superintendent, so you gotta know that.
Eventually.
Okay.
Why couldn't you
Can I
just
make
say,
a-
yeah, go ahead, I have a suggestion too.
I was gonna make a suggestion here. So it is Roman numeral 8 under 5.1. I'm going to move to strike it entirely from there. But under 3.4, Roman numeral 13, that second sentence where it says this request should be made via email to the superintendent, have it read instead, this request should be made via email to the superintendent and not to staff, or not directly to staff, unless the superintendent directs otherwise. Or we can say something along to the effect of the superintendent is responsible for forwarding requests to appropriate staff members. Something like that, so
Yeah.
that then at that point, you know, it's, I'm just, the funnel is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
The funnel
How
of
about-
information, you know, we certainly can send it to senior staff if that was his directive, if that's what he wanted, but you know, I'm hoping Frank is here for a long time, but God forbid he's not, and we have somebody else, this is our policy.
Thank you, Rachel.
They want to operate differently. So I'm just trying to make it, long-term and applicable long-term for whoever's in that seat as well.
Okay, so can you give it to me one more time?
This request should be made via email to the superintendent and not directed,
Not directly to staff, that's what you said.
not directly to staff members, unless the superintendent states otherwise.
Yeah, unless otherwise directed by the superintendent.
That's a lot of directing.
Yeah, something like
Right, the
that.
superintendent may appoint one person to do this funneling because he's,
Right.
How about the good old superintendent or his designee?
something like, you might have a chief of staff, who knows? Who deals with this.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly sitting there fielding requests and then trying to send forward them on to, I mean, Herb had it down, in my opinion, because if you had an issue, you went directly to that person, and, you know, everybody's responsible for their own job, but, not everybody can operate like that, so,
Another thing that might make it a little simpler would be board members request information through the superintendent.
Through the superintendent? Yeah.
That would make
Yeah.
it pretty simple.
isn't that what the first sentence says?
Yeah, instead of, it says right now, board members may request information from the superintendent, just say board members request information through the superintendent. I think that would also cover it. And then you decide what.
Yeah, it almost eliminates the need for the second
Yeah.
in its entirety.
Okay, you know what, yeah, the first sentence could say, board members may request information only from the superintendent.
Okay, just word it only.
Will.
I like the only.
Yeah.
A one-word ad.
Yay, Rachel.
Board members
Request.
So then we take out this request should be made via email.
No, keep it by email.
Yeah, that makes it better. Everybody else knows about it.
Yeah, doesn't it? Yeah, because the other sentence.
Okay, gotcha, all right.
Who to include and support and blah, blah, blah. But striking it out from 5.1.
Okay. Mel, you okay with that?
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't see, no. I'm sure that covers.
Is that Melvin for whatever?
Yeah, I don't see how it covers some of the other
David.
things, but through the
Did
superintendent.
y'all finish 6 and 7?
Yeah, well, they decided to.
No, we're
Okay,
not.
okay.
Yeah, I mean,
We
yes,
took care of 8 here, but I just wanted to.
because I was talking about 7, and they said 8 was non-related.
Right.
And that's how
Exactly, what kind of guy
we
he-
got,
that's what
that's
we're
how we
back to
got
6 and
focused on
7 now.
that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, one more time, I just wanna, in 6, let me say this and then you can talk, okay? In 6, the superintendent is not expected to follow the directions of individual board members, officers, all right, we'll leave it. I erase my comment. Yes, Doctor?
I would just leave 6 and 7 the way they are, and for the very reason as Rachel said, and I think I also said that you've got to you've got to let him have some flexibility, not everything is decided by a vote.
Yep.
And that's the way I look at it, and that's the way I interpret it. If you take out that first sentence of 6, that means everything he does, we have to vote on, and that's just not the way
It's not realistic,
Yeah,
it
exactly.
will freeze.
I want to assure you that I am not trying to reduce your flexibility whatsoever.
Yes.
All I was saying was, if you come to us and ask us what to do, we tell you what to do via a vote. It's as simple as that. Which,
Okay, that's kind of clear now. I guess that's clear, but, I mean, you're making it clear that if he comes to us.
correct.
Because directions have been unclear, then we vote on it. Well, I mean, yes.
So, I move that number 6 be replaced upon request of the superintendent for direction from the board. The board, and then we kick in with number 7, the board will make decisions by formal recorded vote in order to avoid any confusion about whether direction has been given or not. Okay, upon request of direction from the superintendent, the board will make decisions by formal recorded vote in order to avoid any confusion about whether direction has been given or not. I motioned that, do we have a second?
Second was otherwise, it's so complicated. Why didn't you just say through action?
That's what it says.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so then, but I still think you should have in there, so you've given him the flexibility and on day-to-day working to not have to have a board vote for everything, but some things he's gonna come to us and we're gonna vote to tell him what to do. But I still think we better have in there, he's not expected to follow directions of individual board members, officers, or committees, unless the board has specifically delegated such exercise.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
just,
I
no
think
problem
so.
with leaving that in, it's just, it just takes 3.2.2 all over again, that's all.
So your motion was for 6 or for 7? Your motion was for 6 or for 7?
Well,
Combined.
You're combining 6 and 7?
yeah,
Okay.
all right, so, all right, how about we put 7 after from a majority of the board. Oh, wait a minute. No, excuse me. All right, let me restate it. Upon request of the superintendent for direction, the board will make decisions by formal recorded vote in order to avoid any confusion about whether direction has been given or not. The superintendent is not expected to follow the directions of individual board members, officers, or committees unless the board has specifically delegated such exercise of authority.
The only issue I have with it is, well, not the only issue, the main one I have is the beginning part where it just, where is the part where the directive or the occurrence of the conversation originates with the board and not the superintendent? So you're saying upon, him coming to us for direction, where's the alternative? Or the other scenario?
You can either have a separate statement around that, around the board to initiate that, or you can say that the authority of the board to initiate that is implied.
Yeah, I think that that's important to be in there just because it's only a one type scenario based on the current language.
Yeah, but, well, the reason it's in that section is that this section is entitled, "The superintendent will do the following."
Okay, so then maybe we need to add a mirror of it in the Roman numeral 3 where it says the board will do the following.
J in the boards will communicate with staff, the board will communicate with staff members through the superintendent.
Yeah, there's nothing about it. You're right, Rachel, there's nothing about us giving
Okay,
him direction.
right.
And
So
that's
how
important.
about if we
I think it's only appropriate if we're.
I agree.
if we're
Yeah, I
required
agree.
that.
Yep, so the way to get that to the superintendent is either through the oversight of the committees or an agenda item on the full board, right? How else is there?
I just think this is getting a lot more complicated than it needs to be.
I agree.
So, can I say something?
John,
Well,
roll-
it's- yeah, you're right, it's complicated because
5.1J.
we're discussing the philosophy of the relationship and the responsibilities.
5.1J says communicate with the staff member through the superintendent. So why do we need all the rest of this stuff? It don't make sense. That one sentence says it all.
Where are you, Earl?
On 5.1J, says communicate with staff member through the superintendent. That's one sentence.
Right, well, 3.413 earlier was addressing the method by which we make information requests. So it wasn't just with regard to communication with staff members.
Here's set up a little different one. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, J, yeah, it says execute the decisions resulting from board action, and then, okay, I'm confused, there's two J's, it looks like, H-I.
One is
One of them
scratched,
is crossed out.
crossed out, and,
You have to read.
yeah.
So
I
the
don't
board
have
will do
the
something,
right- I
communicate
don't have
with
the
staff
right-
member.
But it does say execute the
Yeah, right,
decisions
oh.
resulting from board action. Did you see that?
I've got,
Oh, you got different.
deal with the board as a whole, and that's crossed out, and under it says execute the decisions resulting from board action.
So that should be J, and then the next one is ensure necessary
We have
steps.
slightly
And
different.
then the next one is also entitled J.
It should be K.
No,
Yeah.
Look at J, it's substituted for something different. Execute the decisions.
decisions
which is
I
not-
know we don't have anybody named J. That's like
Rid of J.
going to the beach with a dog named Shark is a bad idea.
And
That's
that's
the same
different.
thing that others do not, so I'm trying to figure out how that happens.
Yeah, David's doesn't have it
Do you
either.
have this one here?
Yeah, I'll have that, okay.
The one I'm looking at doesn't have any of that.
Yeah, okay.
What does it have?
We have slightly different
All
ones.
right, so we're all,
Ours is the same.
We're all in.
I'm looking at a 41-page document.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the
So-
red one.
Board superintendent relationship, 5.1.
Yeah,
what is
and
yours?
it says the board
I
will
mean,
do the following.
What number?
The numbers on
Be
this.
5.1.
Yeah, the board will do the following.
And at the bottom,
That's section
that's
3.
under the superintendent.
Following.
Execute the decisions, see, this one might.
Question, David? Can I ask you a question? Since you were in on it.
Which one?
Actually, is Roman numeral 8,
She's saying J.
6 and 7, they're about the board. And this section is about the superintendent.
Yeah, mine doesn't work
He
like
doesn't, I
that.
know,
Mine looks-
that's a little different.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, so therefore, doesn't J and K, or whatever they really are, you know which ones I'm talking about, J and J, execute the decisions resulting from board action and ensure necessary staff communication through the superintendent with the board.
J and K, are you all right?
I was looking at,
Oh, okay, you were looking at the board. I'm
Are
sorry.
you under the board or under the
Yeah, you know
superintendent?
what, we all have the same.
We all have the
It's
same.
when we're under the superintendent.
Just looking at you for a second.
Under Roman numeral four, it's JKLM, that's all, it just got a little confusing, we're all right, Robin.
Okay, give me the question again.
Yeah.
Oh, you're, yeah, this is board stuff is really,
You're on the superintendent will do the following, or you're on the board will do the following?
We were on the superintendent, will do the
Do the
board,
following, right.
execute the decision
That's
resulting
section
from
four,
board action.
as listed, right?
Yeah,
Section 4J. J says ensure, right?
right,
Okay. Right.
but now we have two Js, because the other one's, above it, it says execute the decisions resulting from board action.
Mhm.
So,
So
Excuse me,
J,
would you
does
like-
J cover it then?
So, actually, what Jay is saying, whether board action comes from the superintendent asking for advice or from something else, that's what he's gonna do. So actually, the statement
If the
suffices.
board's voted on it, and this is what we said we're doing,
Yeah,
you got execute.
that's what we're gonna do.
right. So therefore, we could scrap
That's what that's.
6 altogether, because it's not, it's a section about board. We could take the second sentence that Dr. Glass was concerned about in 6, right? And move that over to JJ, which is execute the decisions resulting from board action. The superintendent is not expected to follow the directions of individual board members, officers, or committees unless the board has specifically delegated such exercise of authority.
So that is where would go to,
Is that fair? Rachel,
Yes,
say here.
is that fair?
So you're moving 6 to,
The second sentence of 6.
What about the first sentence?
Yeah, then we still gotta decide about.
Take out the first sentence in 6. Okay? And, well, actually, you can take 6 out altogether if you move that second sentence onto the first J, which is execute the decisions resulting from board action.
Yeah,
so now you're back on the
I think
guidance.
you're crossing,
yeah, we're back to the same thing.
I
that we
think
did.
you're crossing apples and oranges
Yes.
yourself.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
I think the superintendent's directive is clear in Roman numeral 4 as solely superintendent. And Roman numeral 3 appears to be solely board, and from that point on, 5, 6, 7, 8 becomes, more the authority relationship. More so than just what you do, but how we gonna operate, how we gonna work.
Okay, so if J and J,
If you put it under J, then you're putting it under superintendent only. And these things, I think, ought to relate to both. That's my personal opinion, though. I didn't have anything to do with this, so in 2016.
okay,
God
that
forbid.
makes sense. I think the alternative to that would be to take those 2 J's out of there and put in what we've been working on with Roman numerals 6 and 7.
There's 2 J's you talk about. I mean, that's-
One of the
I see
They
what
both
you're
say the
saying.
same thing.
Well, I think getting at Mel's point, don't you think maybe that's why there's this Roman, at the very end of the document, there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
Yeah.
that are getting at that relationship as opposed
Yeah,
to,
we
this is
found
his
it.
job, this is our job.
Yeah, right. And now
I think
they're
that's
saying,
what these
here's how we will operate
Right.
together.
Exactly.
yeah,
Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
I think that's why they're there now.
Yeah, I think that's why it was done. I don't,
That was the intent.
That- yeah.
That was
I
it.
don't care, David knows. But leave it alone, except for cleaning up some of the things that you say we don't want. I don't know what it is, but,
Leave 6 and 7.
yeah, and
Leave
6,
6
and
seven.
6 and 7, yeah. Whatever words how you wordsmithed it a while ago, might be suffice. I tell Tina, thinks we do need that last.
Oh, if the
Sentence.
superintendent requests direction from the board, is that what you're referring to?
But then you still haven't gotten
No,
that,
the
our
same
job
kind
is
of-
to,
yeah, I guess
is to
that's the
direct
same
him.
kind of-
Yeah.
Huh?
But if you just say that, you know, if he comes to us asking for a direction, then we vote. But you also haven't addressed the other, the other path on the street. The other path on the street is us telling him what to do.
Right, well, that has to go back to a different section, because the title of this section
Yeah,
is the
that goes back.
superintendent will do the
Go
following.
back to the board section. The board section should
The
have
section
directed
before
that.
that is what the board does, so we got.
That's
we
the
can do
earlier
them
board
separate.
section should have done that.
Well, no, this is outside of that, because the superintendent will do the following is Roman numeral 4. Now we got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, not in that
Yeah, but
section.
Roman numeral 3 is what the board does.
Roman numeral 4 is the superintendent will do the following, and Roman numeral 3 is the board.
What the board does, so
Right.
is that covered in what the board does? If this is just, if it's not clear in my
Yeah,
mind,
exactly.
then here's what we do. And, you know, it starts with the board, but it could easily have started with the superintendent would be directed by the board. Just, I mean, just language in terms of what I see there. But the idea is, okay, if you're confused,
Right.
what your role is,
Here it is.
then yeah, here's what you have to do. Rachel, are you with us?
I'm with
Sleep
you.
well?
Yeah.
All right, that's
Okay.
what I think. I mean, that's a
Can I make a
document is
suggestion?
kind of clear to me in terms of the
Can I
way
make a
it's
s-
written.
Can I make a suggestion? Let's deal with 6 and 7 in Roman numeral 4, okay? And in Roman numeral 3, the statement about what the board's responsibility is should be mulled over a little bit in probably more time than we have left in tonight. So that's where we'll pick up next week, and then we'll be done. Sound fair? Rachel,
Yeah,
is that okay?
Can I ask, I have a request?
Does it make sense? All right, let me go through it one more time. Upon request for direction from the board, the superintendent, upon a request from the superintendent for direction from the board will provide direction in the form of a vote. Okay? And then, the superintendent is not expected to follow the directions of individual board members, officers, or committees, unless the board has specifically delegated such exercise of authority. Now, 7 should go, because that's about a board activity, that should go into section Roman numeral 3. Okay? And we'll deal with that next week. Is that fair enough?
So we're
I'll
gonna
go
discuss
with
this
it,
next week.
Yeah.
so we're gonna revisit 6 and 7 next week?
6, 7,
He's saying
Six.
no.
7 and Roman numeral 3. To make sure that everything is spelled out as much as it should be.
Okay,
And
so
not
we're
more
gonna
than it should
revisit all of this. I'm just confirming, we're not making any changes to 6 or 7 or Roman numeral 3 right now, we're gonna revisit it
that's right.
at the next
Yep.
meeting.
Okay? Great. Good discussion, folks. I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? We're out of here.
Aye.
I'll sign away. I'll come over there.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Bye,
Rachel.
Rachel.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
What's so cool?
For Rachel's phone number, yeah.
Yeah,